Thank you so much. So, let me get my papers in order. I'm so excited to hear from our next gent. May I call you a gent? I don't know. It's funny though, I sent these slides to Michael Aaron, he just left the room, but I had a picture of you on the couch, your couch picture, and he's changed it to this one, so I don't know why. But anyway, Mr. Rob Moolman is the Executive Director of the Utah Pride Center. Rob is also working on his PhD in education at the University of Melbourne, Australia, researching how school management drive and lead the implementation of LGBT inclusive policy or curriculum. Prior to moving to Utah, Rob worked as an education consultant at the Victorian Equal Opportunity and Human Rights Commission, where he was engaged in helping schools, and specifically physical education departments within schools, be more inclusive of queer youth. I didn't know that about you, and I love you even more. I don't know if that's possible, but Rob grew up in South Africa. That might be obvious to those that know him, and was an economics and accounting teacher for 13 years before moving to Australia in 2010. His experiences as a teacher, head of department, and assistant housemaster, I was going to say housemaker, have greatly impacted his career. Mr. Moolman, thank you.
Thank you so much. Unlike Mayor Wilson, I'm not a fifth generation Utahn, and this accent's a little South Utah, so you'll have to deal with that. I have to admit, just thank you so much for inviting me to this amazing event and for allowing me to be part of it. And I have to admit that I'm a touch overwhelmed by two things. First of all, I'm overwhelmed that here I am being asked to speak at the LGBT Economic Summit, Raising the Rainbow Economy. Can we just take a moment to think about that? We are here in Utah speaking about LGBTQ issues concerning the contributions of LGBTQ individuals in the workplace and in the economy with queer people running the show. That to me is mind-blowing. That this person who resisted moving to Utah for many, many months, because why on earth would a queer person move to Utah, is standing in a forum like this. I think it is fantastic. These sorts of groups or summits or occasions were not experiences that I ever thought that I would have as a young person. They're not experiences that I ever thought that I'd ever be a part of. And it is wonderful to see how corporations and organizations have changed their understanding of why it is important to recognize gender and sexuality in the workplace. Special thanks to our incredible partners at the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce. They are some of the most wonderful, wonderful supporters of the Pride Center, and we know that our life at the center and in Utah is richer because of the Chamber of Commerce. So Tracy, Kylie, Michael Aaron, who's disappeared, John Jepson, who does all our insurance. It is amazing to be able to work with queer people around queer issues. The second reason that I am a little overwhelmed, and I'm not sure if she has entirely left, is that I got to speak after Mayor Wilson. I'm actually, as you heard, I'm kind of doing this silly PhD thing, and I'm busy. One of the chapters is on visible and vocal leadership. And to have support from both Mayor Wilson and individuals like Mayor Jackie Biskupski is incredible, and we need to recognize that. A few months ago, Mayor Wilson did something that no other Salt Lake County mayor that we could find has ever done before. She invited us to the chamber, us as the center, to the chamber, and made an official proclamation that the Salt Lake County Council was going to recognize Pride Week. We have that in our boardroom. We proudly display that proclamation. It was also significant that that day was the exact same day that Mayor Wilson and that council passed a ban on conversion therapy within the Salt Lake Council area. Salt Lake County I'm sorry that she's not in the room because that is hugely significant, and we thank Mayor Wilson for that. I was in the room with Equality Utah to see members of that community group, or that community leadership group, Arlen Bradshaw, who the mayor spoke about, Shireen Gorbani, Weston Clark, Mayor Wilson, being those visible and vocal leaders that we need to keep and make sure that our cause keeps moving forward. We know that there's still a long way to go, but we're confident that with leadership like that visible leadership, it is going to be, our cause is moving forward, as the mayor said. Now, okay, so this morning, what I want to leave you with, I don't want to sit and talk to you and tell you about the unbelievable work that gets done at the Pride Centre. I don't think it's important that you know that we had 100 and something thousand people at Pride Week, and it was the most ever. I mean, do you really want to know that the queer prom had 1,200 young people attending it this year, that there were 40 parents and over 100 volunteers, all organised by our youth with a budget of over $15,000? Do you want to know that there are like 2,000 people who come through the Pride Centre every month and that we have over 30 community partners? Absolutely not. It's not important that you know that we are the only organisation that works on resources from cradle to grave, focusing on our community. And really, it's too dull to tell you that we are the only space in Utah, and I would also say one of the few spaces in America that works with youth, focuses on youth aged 5 to 14 years old, and has programs and resources for those young people and those parents. And more importantly, we're also the only organization, I'm emphasizing these things. It's not important that you know that we're the only organization that is currently working specifically focused work on our LGBTQ seniors. And those seniors are at higher rates of suicide, higher rates of loneliness, higher rates of depression than any other age bracket. So that is all irrelevant. What I do want to talk to you about is I want to ask you a question. And the question I wanted to ask you is, why do we need the Pride Centre, and why do we need a place like the LGBT Chamber of Commerce? So yesterday, I had an experience that I've never had before. I testified in front of DOPL, the Department of Occupational and Professional Licensing, and I went to that, the testimony, we were there to testify in favor of the new rules against conversion therapy. Troy called. I think it's important that we as organizations work together, and I went. I'd never done anything like that before. I got to the venue, put my name down on a list of speakers, got there at 9, and waited for over 2 hours to speak. In those 2 hours, as they do, they alternated between people supporting the motion and people who were against the motion. I sat there in a room, a tiny room, and listened to some of the bravest people that I'd ever heard speak about the trauma, about the damage that had been done to them, while in the same room as the people who had done that damage, who had created that harm. I sat there for 2 hours and listened to arguments and comments from people who did not believe that our gender identities and the people that we choose to love, they did not believe that that was valid. That was a valid choice. After changing and adapting and thinking, I had a bit of time to think about how I was going to kick my little portion, my 3 minutes off. I started with the following message. I said, why does the Pride Centre exist? The Pride Centre exists because despite all of the progress that has been made, we, the LGBTQ people of Utah, are still told that there is something wrong with us and that we are broken. And sadly, and too often, we start off believing that. The Pride Centre has been thinking for a while about relaunching its membership program. And I sat in a meeting with our board and I was sort of, going on about it. And I said, what we could do, because I thought I was being really cool and creative, is we could have some sort of campaign, and the campaign would be something great, and it would be like, we wanted to target those sort of middle-income donors, many people like you, business owners, and our campaign's going to be, you might not need the Pride Centre, but the Pride Centre needs you. fabulous. Mona Stevens, who's our amazing board chair, often drifts off while I'm talking because I go on a bit. And she suddenly sat up and she said, no. That is not our message. Our message should be something different. And she asked a question. She said, what would Utah do if the Pride Center was not here? What would we do if the LGBTQ chamber was not here? What would we do if Equality Utah is not here? What would we do if Mama Dragons is not here? What would we do if Encircle is not here? No matter whether you access the spaces or the organizations or you participate in any way, these are important spaces. And it boils down to two things. I'm going to tell you two quick stories and then I promise you I will leave. It boils down to two things for me, and in my little year and a bit of having run the organization and being involved, it boils down to breathing and impact. And the first story I want to tell you is I'll reference a movie. I hope some of you have seen the movie Love, Simon. And in Love, Simon, the mother of a young boy who's recently come out at school, she says to her son that for his whole life, it has felt to her that he has been holding his breath. And finally, for the first time, she can see him breathing. When I go down to the lobby of the Pride Center and just sit and watch people at the Pride Center, I see people coming in the door and breathing. They come into a space that is created for them, that celebrates their identity, and that they can come into as an authentic, whole person. Strive to create something similar at your work. The second part that I want to talk about is impact. I think probably the person who relates to this the most is Michael Aaron. I love stuff trending. I love somebody talking about the Pride Center. I think it's amazing. And I check Facebook and check how many likes we have and see what's going on and talk to our amazing community engagement director, Liz, over there and say, hey, how are we going to get people talking about this? This is going to be great. We're going to make change. This is going to be amazing. But you know what? The reality is that often we just don't know where our impact is. And we do this work and we get crazy, we get wrapped up into these kind of cyclones of craziness and we're going to change the world because we're expecting to see these huge, big things. My experience of this was emphasized by a situation at Queer Prom where a young person, I was wandering around Queer Prom, there were 1,200 young people, and a young person came up to me, tapped me on the shoulder and said, I want to say thank you. I was a little taken aback. I mean, I had nothing to do with it. I was just wandering around. He said, no, I know who you are, and I want to tell you thank you. You are never going to know how much this means to me. And he disappeared into a group of 1,200 people. And while he came to say thank you, and I taught for many, many years, a young 15, 16-year-old kid does not willingly run around to just go and say thank you to people. I recognize the fact that I don't know who the kid is, I don't know where they're from, I don't know what happened, I don't know any of it. But that to them, we did something that has changed their lives. And I'm never going to know that. Never going to know most of the stories. So the work that you're doing here, the opportunity here is amazing. And thank you for that. This work matters. It's not visible, it's not immediately obvious, but we need to keep doing it. Our community and our organizations cannot work independently. We need to work with each other. We need to work with, collectively with Equality, with PFLAG, with Mama Dragons, with all of the other organizations that we have in our communities. We don't always get it right, but we need to listen and respect each other. So my challenge to you is one thing. I'm a teacher, I'm sorry, you've all got homework. So your homework is stay involved, become a donor, become a member of not just the Pride Center. Of course I want you to become a member of the Pride Center, but become actively involved in organizations like the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, like Equality Utah, like HRC. Go and support them. Go and volunteer for them. Support the programs that they're offering. They work really hard. We work really hard to make sure that the programs are connecting to community. Tell your friends, we have no budgets. We don't have huge, big multi-million-dollar media contracts that we can blast everything off all over the place. We work very hard on the programming first. Go and tell your friends, bring your friends. This movement has its ups and downs, but we must keep moving deliberately forward. I'm going to conclude with the following quick metaphor. I was at a cool conference in Los Angeles this weekend, at the LA Center, and I know that in the gay community size doesn't matter, but their operating budget is $140 million a year, and I was like, yeah, that's okay. Anyway, one of the things that I took from it was this wonderful, wonderful metaphor. And think about this as an extension of some of the work that you're doing. We're currently talking about diversity and inclusion, or diversity, inclusion, and equity, and that's great. The new word that people are talking about is belonging. And I love a metaphor, and I love a metaphor that I can relate to. So the metaphor that the person used was around going to a dance. And she said, diversity is being asked to the dance. Equity is being given shoes so that you can dance. Inclusion is actually being asked to dance. But belonging is where you get to choose the music. The music I would choose is, I don't know, It's Raining Men maybe, and Melissa Etheridge over there, and whatever. But I think the song that we should probably be singing at our next dance is, I went and thought about this for a second, but is I'm Coming Out by Diana Ross. Because we are coming out, and I do believe that spaces like this and opportunities that's been created by the Chamber are making change. And thank you so, so much for the work that you all are doing.